are political journalist Zoe Grunwald and editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths. So welcome back, both of you. So we're going to kick off with the story that has dominated the headlines for days now. And this is the breakthrough between Israel and Hamas and the first part of Donald Trump's ceasefire plan or peace plan being signed. The ceasefire is in effect, and it has been as of midday yesterday. And as a result, we've seen a huge number of people trying to get back to their homes in Gaza, and that's the main story for the Times, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's this extraordinary picture on the front of the Times where you can see the sheer scale of the number of refugees trying to go back into Gaza and the what looks like the devastated scenes behind them with all the rubble. I think it was reported that 90% of buildings in that area are damaged or destroyed. So you really have to ask what exactly is going to be waiting for these people when they get back to their home. It's really tragic. It does seem to be that this ceasefire is holding thus far. There are still lots of questions. I think we're all obviously crossing our fingers, hoping that this peace will be maintained. But there are still plenty of questions about, you know, what is going to happen here. Is Israel going to totally withdraw from the region? Will Hamas lay down the arms? Who will actually take control of this region? Who will rule over it? How are they going to rebuild for the Palestinian people? And will Benjamin Netanyahu face justice for his action and his siege of Gaza? So still many questions. It's still very tentative, but I think at the minute we can hope that there will be the start to rebuilding Gaza for the Gazans.
These are live shots now of Gaza City as people try to return, and you can see a huge number of people there out on the streets, and look at that devastation all around. It is extraordinary, isn't it? Yeah. And as Zoe was saying there, while there is optimism about the next few days, the ceasefire hopefully holding and the hostages released, we think on Monday, there's a deadline of about midday on Monday for them to be handed over, as well as the Palestinian prisoners. There are a lot of questions about those next stages, as Zoe was hinting there, and perhaps some of the harder questions are to come.
Yeah, I mean, day by day, minute by minute, I'm personally on tenterhooks. I mean, I think for these people, the question is, their question is just so simple. It's just where do I live? Where's my home? I mean, you're hearing reports of people knowing that their house would have been sort of razed to the ground, but hoping to find at least where it was, and they can't even find the crossroads leading to their house. And you see other reports of people setting up tents where they think their house probably was. So, yeah, there's a lot of big questions, as you say, but I think for these people it's just kind of minute by minute, where is my house?
Yeah, and the hope that that aid, which should now be flooding in, gets to the people that need it. So we take us to the double-page spread in the Daily Mail. There have been a lot of speculation about the Nobel Peace Prize, probably more than previous years, partly because of the rather overt lobbying by the White House on behalf of Donald Trump, who ended up not being awarded it yesterday.
Yes, that's absolutely right. So instead, it was the opposition leader, the Venezuelan politician, Maria Corina Machado, I hope I've said that right, who was recognised for her tireless work promoting democratic rights in the dictatorship. She has been living in hiding for a year. She was barred from running in the presidential election against the authoritarian leader in the region. And you would think that you would want to praise this woman for the fantastic work she's done, but the White House have gone on the offensive. They are huffing and puffing. They said the Nobel Committee has proved that they placed politics over peace. They think Donald Trump should have got the Nobel Peace Prize because of his ability to kind of bring this 20-point plan in the Middle East forward. They seem to be ignoring the fact that he has deployed the National Guard against his own citizens. He has sparked trade warfare across the world. He's been buttering up Putin and, of course, allowing ICE to roam unchecked in the US. But apart from that, he should get the Nobel Peace Prize, apparently. It's very... Sore loser doesn't even begin to...
And actually, her cause is one that Donald Trump has backed in Venezuela. Very quick thought from you on this.
Well,
I mean,
I just feel sad
when
for
we see
her.
the pictures of the ceasefire, if this peace plan does go forward by Donald Trump, that would be quite an achievement. I mean, is that worthy of a Nobel Peace Prize?
Yeah, I mean, I think it actually is. I just wonder if the timing was a bit off because, of course, peace happened, more or less, they'd come to the decision. I feel so bad for Machado because she's been really overshadowed. But, you know, he could well get it next year, as long as he doesn't complain too much. The guy that decides, Jordan Watra Friedness, gave a sort of lofty commentary saying, oh, we base our decisions on integrity and courage. But I have to say, I think Trump has shown a lot of courage. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next year. I think he's in with a chance for next year.
Let's see. Yes, indeed. Let's move on to the Daily Mail, Charlotte. And there's an article here that's surveyed women early in the birth after the birth of their child, and in pregnancy as well, I think. What about their views on motherhood?
Yes, this really got us talking backstage because I've got 3 kids, and what this article is about is you get lots of moments of joy after having a baby, but other than that, your life satisfaction drops. And it's so true. When you first have kids, you have these incredible moments where they say their first word, they take their first steps, they look you in the eyes, and it's so magical for a split second, and then the rest of the day is, you know, picking up nappies and all that kind of stuff. And what they're saying is this study shows that actually you have to really keep an eye on your relationship, because whilst those little moments in the first 6 months of having a baby are amazing, the relationship takes a downward spiral.
Yeah, it says
a really good
relationship
talking
satisfaction with their partner dropped between pregnancy and 2 months and slid further by 6 months. They haven't charted anything beyond that.
Yeah, I know, that's when the divorce is
Yes, it's something to look forward to.
OK, let's move on, Zoe, to an article inside the Times, which is interesting. It's suggesting that Keir Starmer is going to try to frame the upcoming budget, which we know is going to be difficult. We've had plenty of warnings and predictions, and trying to frame it as being Nigel Farage's fault that the country's in this situation.
Yes,
How so?
yeah. So Keir Starmer's really taking the fight to reform, and particularly Nigel Farage now. I think Labour were possibly in a little bit of denial for some time about the threat of reform, but I think they've now realised that actually, with the Tories being kind of so abysmal as they are in the opinion polls, that actually the real threat is reform, and we see that in opinion poll after opinion poll. And I think what Keir Starmer wants to do is show not only that Nigel Farage's solutions, which tend to be based in just the idea of reducing net migration, will not work. I mean, he's accused Nigel Farage of being a snake oil merchant, but he's also actually going to put Brexit on the line. And this is really interesting. He's going to basically suggest that the performance of Britain's economy over the past decade is more anaemic because of Brexit. It means there's a bigger hole in public finances to fill. And this is really interesting because previously the Labour government, particularly Keir Starmer, were very cautious about bringing up Brexit. It was a big political mess, a big political knot. They didn't want to start unfurling. But I think now they've realised that actually, if they're going to take the fight to Farage, they need to show that the things he has offered to the public before in the past that the public have gone for have not worked. And if they go for a reform government, they're going to get that again.
Do you think that's risky, given that the Brexit referendum was won by Leave campaigners? You know, that there's a huge number of Brexit voters that might feel a bit insulted by that line of attack?
Yeah, he's just asking for trouble because, of course, people will blame Rachel Reeves for a bad budget. And, you know, it's such a political own goal, I think. And he's been quite precise and actually said that we would be 120 billion better off in 2035. I mean, when you're that precise about numbers, you're just asking for trouble because people are going to unpick this and unpick the argument. And, of course...
The OBR themselves have kind of put out estimates themselves of how much the UK economy has been affected by Brexit.
Yeah, there are figures out there, but to directly compare it to Brexit, I just think he's asking for reform voters to be more entrenched in their hatred of Rachel Reeves.
I would say the other thing is the obvious question that he's going to get from the Lib Dems and the progressive left is, OK, then perhaps we should rejoin the EU. And the answer is going to be, oh no, we don't want to go there. So it's, you know, if you're going to pull out these figures, which you're right, the OBR back them, a lot of economists do, but then your obvious solution is not, well, we're going to take ourselves back in or we're going to reopen that debate. I think you kind of box yourself into a hole where it's you want to attack Farage, but do you actually have solutions that are going to negate what he says?
Yeah, very interesting to see how they do frame all of that in the weeks as they count down to the budget. Charlotte, there's a picture story, effectively, in The Telegraph that you wanted to talk about, and this is graffiti inside Canterbury Cathedral.
Yes, well, it's always a disaster when institutions try to be down with the kids, I'm afraid. It never, ever goes well, and this is a classic example. So at Canterbury, they've put up this kind of mock graffiti, asking some big questions, you know, is illness a sin? And trying to sort of...
It's kind of like an art exhibition.
It's an art exhibition.
Provoke conversation, is that?
Yeah, provoke conversation. That's kind of reasonable, but and also maybe entice the younger person into the church. But what I thought was so telling is that when Dame Sarah Millay becomes the Archbishop of Canterbury in January, they're going to take it down so that none of it's there. I just think if you're going to install an art installation like this, you've got to kind of back yourself. But obviously they know it's not great, so they're taking it down for their, you know, most important moment. But, you know, I suppose there's no harm in experimenting with a bit of art. It's just always a bit jarring when it's something so old, so historic, so traditional.
What do you think? Do you think it's a bit cringe for younger generations, or do you think they might be a bit more interested in going into a church if they felt that it felt more relevant to them somehow? Or...
I think it's an interesting idea. I think clearly that we are seeing people's attachment to Christianity dropping off, especially amongst younger generations. And I think this is an interesting way of getting people to engage with the questions that the Church of England want people to ask and actually see how Christianity could relate to their life. And I think what is really interesting here is that it shows that there is this tension in the church between modernisers and those who are very traditional. You know, they say that graffiti is a sign of decay, rebellion and anger, and how is that congruent with the art of a cathedral? Well, you could actually say that that rebellion is an important part of Christianity, asking questions, challenging yourself, challenging others. You know, I think that is an important part. It's all about how you interpret religion and how you interpret faith. And I think, if anything, that's what this exhibition was supposed to trigger. It's probably supposed to trigger those questions. So maybe it has served its purpose.
Yeah, interesting. So, well, we've certainly talked about it for a while, haven't we? Let's move on finally to a story about MTV, because this was at the Pop Video channel. It was pretty big when I was young. It was the place to watch pop videos when it first started in the 90s, was it?
Yeah.
And now then, they're no longer going to be operating in the same way.
Well, I'm giving away my age here because I'm 40. So my entire childhood, long before TikTok and Instagram, mobile phones, smartphones, I was just glued to MTV all day, every day. And it launched big careers like Cat Deeley's career. And the first ever song that came out on MTV was Video Killed the Radio Star, and how extraordinary that seems now, because actually, if MTV isn't showing music videos anymore, do pop stars need to make music videos? Or do they...
Well, they just watch them online, don't they? That's the thing.
Yes.
Or on Spotify, or their streaming service will run them.
Or just not bother at all and just make little clips for TikTok, because videos are very expensive. I mean, who can forget the Michael Jackson era, these huge, sweeping, cinematic productions. But actually, teenagers now just want 10 seconds maximum on TikTok. So the record companies could save a lot of money. OK, we are going to leave it there. You have now got Video Killed the Radio Star in my head, so I curse you for that. But lovely to see you both. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered.